Good evening, all. Could we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Mason.
Mrs. Fryrick?
Here.
Mr. Posnow?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Mr. Sanders? Mr. Scalette?
Here.
Mrs. Schrader?
Here.
Mr. Sears?
Here.
Mr. Toman?
Here.
Mr. Watts?
Here. Thank you. Reminder, please silence your cell phones during the meeting. This is your first opportunity for public comment. All comments and questions will be addressed to the President. Board and staff members will not normally respond to comments or questions during the meeting unless recognized by the President for this purpose. Comments will be limited at the discretion of the President to 5 minutes or less. Do I have any comments? Yes, please step up. Your name and address, please.
Sure. I have handouts. My name is Bevan Fogdahl. My address is 360 Brookgate Road. Good evening. I wanted to thank the school board for its recent decision to make some changes to the dress code. This year I actually wrote my research paper assignment about the dress code, and I specifically argued that I thought that our dress code here in the YSSD should be more lenient. And as a part of that, I did a survey of 263 students at the high school, and I included some multiple choice questions as well as open response questions for personal comments and stories about experience with the dress code. So one of the things that I talked about in my paper was the dress code's effect on female students in particular, and something that a number of the authors that I read referenced was how dress codes can often make female students feel uncomfortable if they feel like they are being made to feel ashamed for their bodies or told that their bodies are merely distractions. And about 90% of the students that I surveyed agreed that the dress code unfairly targeted female students, and a number of people also commented on this in their open response questions. A number of students also noted that they felt that this was inappropriate with mostly older male administrators enforcing the dress code. So I am glad that more lenient rules have been adopted for the dress code, since hopefully this will lead to a decreased amount of students, particularly female students, feeling uncomfortable about that. And to go off of that, the second thing that I talked about is how the dress code can detract from student school experience because of that discomfort. The majority of students that I surveyed that had been dress coded felt uncomfortable when it happened. So hopefully the new dress code will increase the number of students who are being dress coded so that doesn't make them unhappy with their school experience. Another issue related to the dress code is that most students miss class when they're dress coded, and especially if they're missing tests or if they're missing parts of their AP classes, that can certainly set them behind in their classes and make school a lot more difficult for them. Additionally, students are often upset after they get dress coded, and it's no secret at the high school that students have been unhappy with a number of the rules that have been used in recent years. As you can see on your handout, about 75% of students have recently felt upset or angry at the school district because of unhappy with the dress code. However, what I've heard from my peers recently is that they're very happy to be listened to with the recent changes that have been made, and the rules about leggings and ripped jeans have been particularly unpopular, and students are incredibly happy that those have been changed in particular. And the last thing that I discussed was how dress codes affect student expression. And one thing that I noted was that schools are responsible for preparing students to be successful adults, and there aren't always necessary specific dress codes for every situation in life. So developing decision-making skills as well as self-expression and creativity skills are particularly important for schools so that students can learn to make their own decisions on what they think is appropriate to wear in particular situations, as well as developing that creativity that's important, especially in a society where we have a lot of problems that need creative solutions. So avoiding imposing conformity and allowing for more creativity and expression is particularly helpful in a school environment. And luckily the new rules have allowed for a wider range of expression for students for next year, which will hopefully enhance their educational experience. So I'd again like to thank the school board for the recent changes. I'm glad that more leniency is being allowed, and most that were surveyed in the dress code were dress coded for violations related to ripped jeans and leggings. So hopefully the amount of students who are dress coded will be decreased by quite a lot, and that will make them much more happy with their school experience and hopefully lead to increased trust and a sense of feeling represented in the school board and the district. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
May I ask you a question, or somebody from the administration, could we get a list of the changes that were made? I mean, I think it's very nice.
Is
I don't expect you to have that tonight.
Dr. Adams there? Yeah, there you go.
How is it?
I actually had spoken to that last meeting when we had the handbooks.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what the question.
The question on the
Some of the major
changes in
changes were just the jeans and the
Leggings.
leggings. Okay, is that the two big?
Yeah, and then, straps are 2 inches wide instead of 3 inches.
Okay,
Those were the
okay,
changes.
okay, good, thank you.
All right. You have the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting of May 7th, 2018, and the regular monthly meeting of April 23rd, 2018. Are there any corrections? Then I would say we submit them as they stand. Mr. Sears, Treasurer's Report.
All right, this is a consent agenda like normal. Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there questions of any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the board-mentioned items. Oh, that's you, I guess, since you're the chair.
Well, then the chair moves. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mason, this can be a short roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call decision unless I hear a comment otherwise.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Elise Atkinson is visiting us for her last time as student board representative. And at this time, could you come up? I have a gift for you. Elise, thank you for your service. Okay.
Uh-oh. Yeah. I only have one more meeting when I can do this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. The board met prior to the Planning Committee meeting on May 7th in executive session as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act for the purpose of discussing matters of contract negotiations. No official action was taken. A committee of the board met with representatives of the York Suburban Education Association on May 16th, 2018 at 6:30 in executive session for a fireside chat as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act for the purpose of discussing personnel matters. No official action was taken, and there was no fireside. It was just a chat. The board met prior to this evening's meeting in executive session as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act for the purpose of discussing matters of personnel and contracts. No official action was taken. I would like to nominate Joel Sears be appointed as the treasurer for a one-year term beginning July 1st, 2018, at no compensation.
Second. Well, if it doesn't cost us any money.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, Ms. Mason?
Toman.
Yeah.
Schrader.
Yes.
Sears.
Yes.
Scolette.
Yes.
Fryrick.
Yes.
Watts.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Posnell.
Yes. Thank you.
Congratulations.
You have the July to December committee schedule linked on the website. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Redding.
Okay. And also linked, you have the student enrollment and the cyber charter school report numbers included. I would also use this opportunity to report on our kindergarten enrollment for 18-19. At Valley View, we currently have 87 students registered. At Yorkshire, we have 96 registered. So I point that out as we 96 pre-registered for kindergarten at Yorkshire and 87 pre-registered at Valley View. And the importance of the number of sections we have planned for both of those buildings and whether that needs to be adjusted. Okay, we have a special program tonight, and the man with the big plaque, or are you going to make an introduction, Dr. Adams?
I'm just going to introduce Connie Wolf, and on behalf of the district and the high school, we certainly appreciate you and the committee being here tonight for this special honor. So I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, good evening. I feel like I have my back to too many people here. I apologize. May I turn this?
Sure. Yeah.
Yep, just pull the whole
Yeah, just swing it around.
portable.
Take it out of its stand?
That's good. No singing, no singing. Is this really on?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, Chairman and board members and faculty, students and parents, thank you for being here. My name is Connie Wolf, and with me tonight are a number of board members. Mike Heisler is a basketball referee. He is also the vice president of the PIAA York County basketball officials. We also have an alumni who's a CPA, Steve Merrick. He's with RKL.
Step in.
Steve,
back
you're back here. He's chairman of our board. Next to him is Tom Ryan, who is a basketball official. And Tom is the treasurer for the PIAA, York County PIAA basketball officials, and also that automatically makes him a treasurer for the Gretchen Wolf Sword Scholarship Fund. Let's see, we have Patrick Lannon. Patrick was the first year when we gave out this scholarship in 2001. 2003, I take that back. That was the third year, whatever. Anyway, so he is also one of our board members, as are the others that I introduced here tonight. So, this award that we're about to get, we missed one, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Great, we have Attorney Charnetska. He might put me in handcuffs. Craig Charnetska. Craig, stand up, please. Craig I turned the secretarial duties over to him after 15 years. Craig's on our board. He's with CGA Law, and again, he's secretary for the corporation, for the board. So we're here tonight because Coach Barley and your AD have done a great job with sportsmanship. And to win this award, what happens is the officials, after the main season in January, the officials, basketball officials, male and female, they get together and they vote on which team showed, the boys team and girls team, showed the best sports, were the best sports. And so this year, York Suburban girls basketball team was the one that got that for sportsmanship. Last evening we were at Southwestern and we handed out scholarships there for the boys team, and they showed the best sportsmanship. So what we have tonight is just a little discussion here about respect, and I see that your signs of honesty and respect are throughout your high school, but we certainly congratulate you for being in this position tonight. It's pretty amazing. Well, we had the opportunity at our board meeting to interview these students, and it was a thrill. It's the best board meeting of the 4 that we had in a year, and we hope that they relaxed and that they learned something and had a little fun. So what I'll do is give you a little background, and you'll probably be able to figure out who we are talking about. But here's a young lady who has a permanent smile and can be found helping younger children. Your coach said you were like a mother to many of these younger athletes. Her role models are both of her grandmothers. So we hope that this scholarship for $10,000 will assist her in her studies at St. Francis University as she studies pediatric PT. For Kennedy McGee, would you please step forward? And Mr. Heisler has an envelope for you. The envelope will explain how you get the monies. It's not in that envelope. I can tell you that. Your parents would say. This young athlete, the next lady, says that her mother is a role model and helped younger students with the Little League Summer Leagues, I guess they were. Well, we wish you the best at your college as you pursue, we think, criminal studies with perhaps a longer-term goal of law school. We wish you the best, and we hope this scholarship for $10,000 also helps with your college cost. Congratulations, Brianna Embry Banks, on your year. We sure hope this fulfills your dreams. Then, with excitement, to attend a university west of York, this young athlete had fun this season. Coach, not that she did in other seasons, but this season was really special and thought it was the best of her school years. So this hardworking gal mentioned her possible interest in becoming a basketball official, because currently she's a baseball umpire. But we invite Allie Roniker to come forward to accept from Mr. Heisler a $10,000 scholarship to pursue her business degree at the University of Pittsburgh. Next, we have a soft-spoken young lady who has a focus on health care and said her role model was her mother. Helping others is her passion, which she will pursue at Lock Haven University, studying to be a nurse. She was very fond of Coach Barley and thought the season went well. Would you, Jonah, Betty, Harrison, come forward to accept your scholarship for $12,000, and we wish you the best. And finally, either out of process or of elimination, but preferring warmer temperatures, this young lady will study industrial engineering, we think. Her role model is her mother, who attended many of her three-team sporting events. So would Catherine Mooney come forward to accept her $15,000 scholarship to study at the University of Paris? I will just mention, during the voting, since I knew a lot of the families, I reclused myself from voting when we had our meeting, so tried to stay neutral. Just say the following thing. We need Coach Barley to come forward to accept the award. This is the award plaque because the girls' team, please come forward, won the award this year. And that's for you to display, and we hope you have it returned to you. So you know that sportsmanship is our mission, and we leave you with this thought, that one person practicing sportsmanship is far better than 50 that preach it. Have a good evening.
Thank you. So I know these board members are really exciting, but if you ladies have something else you would rather do, feel free to.
And could we get a picture? Dr. Adams is going to do a picture out here in the lobby with presenters and the plaque and everything before we. Go ahead.
Dr. Redding, if I could just hang on one second. If I could just say that this is a testament to Coach Barley in her leadership. And the high school administration. I'm really touched by this, and I know other board members are feeling so proud of you guys. So, thank you. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It gives them the right the option to apply then for this pool of money because they were, am I saying that right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of money. And the boys will get the same amount. Get that picture. That is really a lot of money.
Isn't that awesome?
Like, really significant.
That's
awesome.
I didn't realize it was that dollar amount for each one.
They're serious.
Yeah. That's an incentive to play nice.
I know. I mean, is the word out on that?
Chris was just saying in years past it's been like $100,000 and half of it went to the boys team and the half to the girls. But they obviously earned more money this year and had more to give away.
So great.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the end.
Yeah.
They never have to raise money again for this scholarship. It has been well endowed.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yes, continuing on. Okay, next item on the agenda is job description for Student and Family Services Liaison position. And as we have been talking about for the last several months, how does this need as it relates to social services, to mental health services, to addressing some of the concerns that were shared a number of times throughout our meetings this spring. The several groups getting together to provide input, our administrative team, our counselors, our personnel committee, filtering out a job description that's before you that really talks about assisting students and families and helping them eliminate the barriers to taking advantage of the academic programs we have in the district. So open it up if there's other comments. My hope would be to have this back on the June board meeting for approval as a position that would be established, and the process then to post and hire someone that would be on board for the start of the new school year. Questions, comments, feedback?
I'm struggling a little bit with the title and then some of the job summary, but because I had in mind that we were going to be looking at more of a social services, social worker type position, and I'm struggling a little bit with that at this point.
Title of the...
Yeah, the title, Student and Family Services Liaison. I'm not sure that that's what I think I wanted to say, and I don't offer a suggestion, which is not good.
Well, I could maybe help explain why I got to this point. The mental health piece and not wanting to box this person into just doing social work, but to be able to find those resources and direct them to maybe the social agency or direct them to the mental health agency rather than being the worker. And probably the tipping point was the amount of work that would be in this one position if it was all about this person doing the work. And we tried to formulate it so that they were the one in charge of finding those services rather than actually being the social worker. And if that's not the wishes of the group, that's sort of why I want to have...
The reason I raise that issue is because I'm thinking in terms of having someone who's available to deal with the situation now, not having to go out and find somebody else. You know, when we had the emergent problem at 10 o'clock in the morning or somebody's having a meltdown at 4:30 in the afternoon, they have to go find somebody.
But I don't see how that, I'm with you, Ellen, but how does the primary duties and responsibilities enumerated there preclude this person from meeting those needs on the spot?
It might not be. It might be, we might wind up getting a social worker who does this. I don't know. But I'm thinking more in terms of a social worker as opposed to someone who's going to go out and find somebody. You know, some of the conversations that we've had and the presentations we've had have, strongly stressed that this person is there and available and can handle these issues, when they arise at whatever time of the day and that kind of thing. And I think that's an important, we already have some mental health provisions, I believe, at the secondary level now, and but these people have to wait until they can get their insurance figured out and some of those kinds of things. But if we have a real emergency issue that needs someone to sit down, and they've got to go find somebody.
I think number 4 does that.
And number 7? Number 7 would...
So, but are you thinking that this maybe allows us to find somebody, gives us an opportunity to look at people with different backgrounds then?
Yeah, and actually I was going to point you to the qualifications, and we put in specifically may include. So the person who is hired could be the licensed social worker, but we didn't want to say they have to be a licensed social worker. So part of it is being able to get a broad sweep of applicants and then going through the interview process and the vetting process to see who's coming with the best skill set and not only be looking at people who have that.
Okay, we differ on that because I want to see someone with a real social work background, counseling, that can handle some of these things and not just maybe, or they might be included in the, you know, in the group of people that interviewed for this position. I know around the county, some of them are coordinators and others are licensed social workers, counselors, you know, with counseling backgrounds. And I think that's, to me, that's what I'm looking to be extremely important. So this person is available as well as can do, you know, and I don't know how that works 100%, that's for sure. I don't know if those kinds of people even exist out there in social work land.
Mr. Toman.
So I shared some of the same concerns you did. That to me, the title led me to believe that was not a quote doer.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do think the job description doesn't preclude that at all. It kind of includes all of that. But is that a job title that anyone out there is going to recognize? I mean, is that a term someone uses? Because in the job market, they have to know, they know what they are, and do any of them know that that's what they might be? Because it seems like an odd title to me. And it doesn't imply what I think the description implies. The description, I think, is fine on what they could do. I wasn't a big fan of the title, and I think under qualifications we need to fix number 1, because it looks like it still has the comments of our draft in it that say we might want to rewrite this section.
Well, yeah, it's not a polished one to post.
And I did have a concern that we were saying that they had to be licensed only, quote, in Pennsylvania. If they were licensed, I'm not sure why we would restrict that to Pennsylvania. If there was a license, if they could be licensed in Maryland and they wanted to come up here, I don't know why that wouldn't be an acceptable qualification for us to hire.
And I would actually like to see it, and we've sort of covered it, but it would surprise some people to realize around the county, the person that's often thought of as a school social worker is actually a school counselor, actually has a school counselor certification and not a social work certification. They aren't what we think of as a school counselor, but that's their educational background. So if we're going to say qualifications may include, I would like to see that listed as an option. It might be that somebody who's a licensed social worker is the best choice, but I would not want to eliminate people from who possess a school counselor certification, for example, but who have these, this skill set from applying simply because they don't have the social work degree. I'm thinking there might be some in the county who already do this in other districts who might be interested in this position, yet they don't possess the social work degree, but they're already doing this job. So we might throw that in somewhere. I'll let somebody else figure out the verbiage, but I'd like to see that included.
Is that a title you recognize?
It's the word liaison's not necessarily uncommon. I agree that that's a little bit misleading or confusing. I probably would say let's go with a different title. But I think the role and responsibilities that are outlined in it are specific yet broad enough to still allow that flexibility. I see definite opportunities where this individual can interact with students on a one-to-one where timing is maybe of the essence. Also working one-to-one with families, but also the group setting, and then also working in collaboration with the staff. So I see this role really looking towards kind of what I had hoped to see out of it. My only remark that I would make under the qualifications is I feel that this position should be a master's degree minimum, whereas it says undergraduate, master's degree preferred. If you state a master's degree at a minimum, then we allow for licensure to be preferred, whereas we don't necessarily need to go with somebody who's recognized by the state licensure board if they have that skill set and we think that it's a good match. However, that still would be preferred. And then also, it can expand it a little bit, not just master's level in social work, not just licensed social workers, but you also have licensed professional counselors. You also have people who are licensed as marriage and family counselors who, through their education and clinical experience, would be able to easily fit into a school setting and do a lot of these roles and responsibilities.
Other comments, questions?
Does coordinator work better than liaison?
I like coordinator. Student and Family Services Coordinator.
And that is a hope.
It still implies the non-doer. That's, but it does describe what's described there. Coordinator's a whole lot
little better than a liaison.
Yeah, and the hope, in my perspective, is not that we rely solely on this individual to be doing one-to-one interaction. So we would hope that it's an individual who can come in and just help strengthen and just rebuild the system, the awareness and understanding of what's out there in the community to be able to get children, adolescents, families connected to them in a much more streamlined way than is now.
Mr. Robinson, thoughts?
Well, I like the idea of changing the title to coordinator unless there's an even stronger descriptor. The only thing I thought of looking at the job summary in the first sentence, we come to the position where it says students and families in reducing and/or eliminating. I would add behavioral and/or psychological barriers to academic success.
Behavioral and psychological?
Behavioral and/or psychological. I mean, I'm not sure how, I'm no expert in the clinical terminology, but I think that covers all the ground I would like to see covered. And then, I don't know if this is an appropriate comment for tonight's discussion, but, sadly, in view of the recent events in Texas, I mean, do we want this position to be involved with either a school resource officer or law enforcement officials in some way? And I'm not really sure what that means. I'm not sure what I'm talking about there, but as you all know, that's never stopped me before. I think
you're on a roll.
Yeah, well, if a professional that we have on staff can help spot a problem before it gets out of hand, is that something we want to look at?
Absolutely.
That making any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me work on okay.
Other?
So, the terms of employment is it would be an administrative, non-classified, 12-month salaried position.
The benefit package that we placed into our into play several meetings ago with the benefits accountant, 12 months with the vacation leave, and again, my intent was being able to use them in a much more flexible way than in somebody that's in a teacher contract.
So not on the teacher contract.
Right. Okay. We'll be back with next version for the June 18th meeting, and certainly share it before then too. Want to make public note that our June board meeting will be held in the high school auditorium down in the front. I call the orchestra pit. I don't know if that's the term that everyone uses here. This building, as of June 4th, is going to be under renovation for carpet and paint. So even board meetings or committee meetings and the like will be relocated. We'll direct everyone to come in the high school office, and we'll have one of our staff members directing folks at that time. And then the plan is certainly to be back in here for the July board meeting. I'm not sure when all the final work comes together, but for now, we'll plan accordingly for the month of June. Administrative reports, Dr. Stoltz, you want to go first?
All right. So, I know next week some of you are involved in the academic standards meeting, but not everybody. And I won't be there. Well, I could be, I guess.
Oh,
but
come on.
maybe I'll come. But anyway, I wanted to take my opportunity to thank the board for full-day kindergarten. And I did want to do just a little bit of a report. This is from Yorkshire's perspective of full-day kindergarten. Wendy's going to be my clicker. Okay, so some of the greatest advantages of full-day kindergarten was that gift of time. So just really taking the time to teach the daily routines, establish the relationships, that family feeling within the classroom. More time to teach the academics, breakfast and lunch opportunities for all students, specials including D&D, which is our discovery and design, our kindergartners with their coding carpets and doing those coding type of activities. We saw increased academic gains, which I'll brag about in just a few seconds, stamina throughout the day without an increase in behavioral concerns. And if you remember back when we were trying to sell the idea of full-day kindergarten, the research showed that academics over time kind of level out, but it was the behavior that we saw increasing, less behavioral concerns. Well, now we're just year one. We have seen increase in the academics without an increase in the behavioral concerns. So the little ones kept the stamina throughout the day. So I asked some of our adults, and the photos or the little pictures do not represent their
emojis.
So Mrs. Forney, our guidance counselor, she said she was, what she liked best about full-day kindergarten was being able to provide guidance lessons in all classrooms with a focus on mindfulness, and she was able to provide small group counseling. She was not able to do that before with half-day kindergarten. Mrs. Gawley, one of our reading specialists, said she and Mrs. Bartlett, our other reading specialist, were able to provide daily reading support using ERI, early reading intervention, to students, and they were thrilled with the DRA results, which again I'll show in just a second. Mrs. McClure, our math coach, said the development of a deeper conceptual understanding of number sense concepts that have been wonderful to see throughout the year. The students' enthusiasm towards math was contagious. And then Mrs. Kaufman, one of our kindergarten teachers, said just getting to know the kids in all areas, socially and academically. And then I asked a few of our little kiddos, and Rashad says he liked math and he liked doing homework. I said, homework? And he said, yeah, he liked practicing his word wall words. Lucas A. said he liked learning and adding in math. Math did keep coming up a lot. Mackenzie said, I like seeing Mrs. Murray because she's beautiful. I said, anything else. And she teaches us. And then Roland said, recess. Well, of course, you would expect that answer. All right, so some of the evidence. So if we can, DIBELS is an assessment that we use for early reading skills. So for the early phonemic awareness, early phonics, great predictor of later reading success. So just to, we can quickly look at, in 2005, I just wanted to show you 3-year progression in, 2015-16. And if you just look at the, if you scroll down a little bit to the composite, and we're looking at the core, 87% of our students were at core and 5% intensive. We're really happy if we can get 80% of our students at core. Okay, so just remember 87. So we're happy. We're really happy because we're quite close to that 90. So 87 the next year, last year with half-day kindergarten. 85, 2% intensive. Again, we're happy because we're solidly in that 80%. And then this year was the first year ever that we broke into 90, 93% and 0 students in intensive. So I have great hopes going into first grade. Okay. Now, our DRA is another reading assessment. It takes a little further. It is the actual active reading. By the end of kindergarten, it's the actual active reading, and it adds some comprehension to it. So this was 2 years ago, and again, we're looking at that proficiency. If you see at the top, 84% proficient. We're happy with that. And last year, 86%, again, quite happy with that. And then this year, we broke into the 90s again. So we're seeing that upward trend. So we're quite thrilled. Now, we also then do writing with our kid writing. So quickly, if we look at Brady in the fall, there's this little picture. We scroll down, and he writes, "The cat is pink." That's actually pretty decent. Brady in the spring, they're doing a little bit of research about sea turtles. Turtles can swim in water. The turtle shell is their house. Also, sea turtles are reptiles. A little bit of transition, some detail. Owen, in the fall, one sentence. Again, this is kindergarten. The kite is red. Pretty typical. And in the spring, again, research, manatees. Manatees have whiskers. They live in the water and move slowly. Also, manatees eat seagrass. Look at the printing. We started a handwriting program called Size Matters. It's also giving us really nice results. And then Dibble's Math. And this is with our everyday math. If we look at the composite from this is the first year of it, so I can at least show you from the beginning, 73% overall to 76 up to 85. So what Mrs. McClura, our math coach, was thrilled, and hopefully I can come back next year and maybe we'll break into the 90s. And then I do say it's all about great teachers. You can see them involved in all of those different activities. Actually, the original group picture I had of them was on our 100th day of school, and they were all dressed as 100-year-old women. But I didn't think they appreciate that, so I swapped it out. I can share it with you if you wish. And so my vote is in, and again, I just thank you for providing the full-day kindergarten for our students. And those of you that are attending next week, I think on the 30th, the academic
standards
meeting, you'll be hearing some more information from the kindergarten teachers themselves. So thank you.
Dr. Krauser?
Well, I could probably just sit back down because in 6 years it's just going to rock the middle school. So I'll say thank you again because that was fantastic. I'll keep us on my 2-minute mark, and I'm going to share 3 words we think about the middle school in the month of May, and they're continuum of learning. I wrote them down. Continuum of learning, transition, and recognition. Everybody knows I love to talk about the middle school. So the continuum of learning. It's May. It's middle school. It's 8th grade-itis. It's an important process that students don't see. School learning begins on August 17th and ends on May 31st. So we talk about what does continuum of learning mean, how does that happen, and the month of May is really just that. It's a celebration of different activities, and some would call it field trips. What we call it is learning in action. It's a continuum of learning. So we've had great experiences with our students in all 3 grades going out and experiencing some of the learning that they've been happening. For example, Friday, our 8th grade students did some research in the science fields. They were doing some science and math studies about Hershey Park. On Friday night, or Friday afternoon and into the evening, they put that in action. So it was a continuum of learning. It's learning all those things. Tomorrow, our 7th grade is going to the Isaac Walton League. They've had a brook trout cycle of life that's occurring in all the classrooms. They've raised the trout from eggs through fry, and now they're going to engage in the release. So tomorrow, they'll all go to the Isaac Walton League. They'll learn about stream studies. They'll actually release the trout that they have raised in all their science classrooms. So it's absolutely a continuum of learning. It's exciting. And with that, one last piece of continuum of learning. It's a formal invitation to all the board members, and this is coming to you from an 8th grade class of students that we have. One of our science class students, it's a section of students that's kind of a collaborative, co-taught group of students. They have created the life and science behind the tomato plant. So, May 29th, that's next week, from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. in our cafeteria, these students are going to bring their learning alive, because we've been telling them that it doesn't end when the school year ends. All the things that they've learned and experienced with their continuum of learning. They've been to a farm. They've got to see how this all works. They've seen the careers and the education behind that, so they're excited. So if you're available, we'd love to have you in the cafeteria next 29th at 5:30. Transition. As we get ready to kind of round out the end of the school year, it's all about transition. The middle school's got two bookends. Our 8th graders are soon to be high school students. They're getting their transitional materials ready to go. They've spent some time at the high school. We're keeping their 8th grade-itis in check, reminding them they have a couple days to go, despite the fact that literally 90% of them are levitating around the building because they're just walking around like life is good. At the same time, we're embracing our 5th graders. So we've had a great opportunity. 5th graders have been in the building in May with their classroom teachers from 5th grade. We've had students and parents come up last week for a little scavenger hunt around the middle school, kind of ease that transition. And then on Friday night, the students engage in a luau from both the East York and Indian Rock PTOs as they kind of have a more of a social event. We're taking the Road Runners, we're taking the East York Dragons, and we're going to turn them into Trojans. That's our goal. So that's that transition that they're having. And lastly, it's recognition. Middle school students work extremely hard. We've got, and I'll say it over and over, the best middle school students there are on the planet. And they work really, really hard. Middle school is difficult. Not only who they are as a pre-adolescent, but we're introducing rigor, we're introducing more tasks for them, and they rise to the challenge. And rightfully so, we celebrate that. So at the end of the year, we're doing a lot of recognition. We're recognizing academic achievements, we're recognizing social achievements, we're recognizing and celebrating all the things the students are doing to show that they've grown as a young adult, so that inevitably we move them from grade to grade, pass them on to the high school, and they'll find success. So things are great at the middle school. We're rounding out those last few weeks. Their continuum of learning will continue throughout the summer. We have some activities and programs that are happening math-related throughout the course of summer. We're also opening up the library for some reading opportunities this summer because learning never ends. And for a middle school student, we know those both involve academics as well as the choices of life. So we're working very hard to make sure that they end this school year ready to make those real choices throughout the course of the summer when they engage with their peers and social groups. So that's the middle school. Thanks for all that you do.
Thank you, Dr. Krauser. That's all for our reports.
Ms. Mason, Business Office Report.
Thank you. The administration recommends board adoption of the resolution to approve the 2018-19 general fund operating budget in the amount of $57,987,788 to set the real estate tax rate at 23.1815 mils. This represents a 1.9% increase, which is less than the state index of 2.8% set for the 2018-19 fiscal year.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments, discussion?
At our Finance Committee meeting, we talked about a couple issues, one of which was the exclusion of the $320,000 from the retirement fund from this budget. And wonder what the explanation was there. That was money that was budgeted for that purpose, and it would have a significant impact on the millage increase. That was missing from the last display that we got. And we also had some information about the funding projections from the state that were a little higher enough at least to cover a couple $100,000 more. So it would seem to me that we could actually do better than 1.9, that we could responsibly take it to 1% or even lower and still balance the budget and not compromise our future.
Does everyone have a copy? If you go to the back page, this is the report that I generally have for you each meeting. Didn't get it out before the meeting, I apologize. If you look at the very last page, though, which is the summary page, you'll see there the 2018-19 proposed budget column. We do start the year with a 1.4 change in fund balance. So if you look at the beginning assigned fund balance in the beginning unassigned fund balance and what we propose using. And if you look at the column to the left, the 500,000, which is part of the fund balance that we were using for insurance, that was the holidays, we're going to use that. The 923,000 that was supposed to help balance this year's current budget, which we are not going to use, we use that. So that takes that down to a grand total of our fund balances for next year without using anything from the retirement to $6.6 million. If you look over then to the 1920 column, that's where we'll have to use the retirement because the 500 is gone, the 923 is gone, and remember, next year, meaning 1920, we're already starting the year, we have to make up $780,000 that we're using this year out of the trust to do the employer contribution for the HSA. So that's going to be needed in addition to what we're using from fund balance this year. Because once you use fund balance, you essentially can't make it up. Because fund balance is for one time. Theoretically, it's for one-time expenses. And we're using it to balance the budget for more than one-time payments or expenses.
You mentioned the HSA.
Mm-hmm.
We are getting an opportunity from LBT to get some of their money back, so we will not have to use fund balance.
Not for 18-19, but for 19-20. That's why I added it back in. Because it's about $780,000 in expense for the HSA contribution. Now, probably in those 2 years it will go higher because it's based on the number of employees, but I'm using the number we know now. So if you look right now at the next 2 years, and essentially in the second year, we're in big trouble. In 2020-21, we're in big trouble. And this is all done with the 1.9% increase.
Well, that's a 1.9 going from 17-18 to 18-19.
Correct.
But you're showing no increase in the 1920 budget or the 2021 budget.
Correct, but it's showing using a 1.9% increase for 18-19.
Well, I understand that.
So it carries over.
But wouldn't it make sense to show some assumption about tax increases in the out years as well?
But I don't know what your assumptions were, so I took where we currently are.
Well, the assumption then would be no tax increase in 1920 and no tax increase in 2021 to generate these figures at the bottom, in the lower right-hand corner.
That's correct. And this is how we've always done our forecasting in the past, is we take what we...
We've already started with a blank, assuming no tax increase, and then we balance the budget.
Correct.
Well,
rather than assuming some tax increase.
I understand that, John, but it kind of makes sense to do some kind of sensitivity analysis and make some assumptions. Just to show, for example, if we think 1.9 is the right number this year, what does another 1.9 look like in the second and third year of this projection? Or what does a 1% look like? I'm really curious to know what is the rationale for holding the local revenues constant. That's not a reasonable projection. I mean, I can understand that as a baseline, but it's not realistic.
I think it is.
When was the last year we had a zero tax increase?
I have hope.
But when we look at something like this, and I think it's our job to look into the future, and we see that if we stayed on that trajectory, which is to say no tax increase in the two out years here, that we would run the fund balance below zero. We're not going to do that.
Well, two thoughts. One is we have stated that our goal is to keep the fund balance no lower than 5% of budget.
By policy, correct.
So we have that goal moving forward. I agree with the idea of showing what the world looks like without an expected increase. What is a 1.9 increase? It's like 1.1 million? You have
I have to look. There's a lot of numbers.
1.9 generated 752,000.
Yeah, 750, yeah.
Okay. Other thoughts around the table?
So you're saying we're gonna stay at the 1.9 as opposed,
I'm asking. I'm not saying
that,
anything.
but that's what this is, yeah.
You have the 320,000 in this 1920 column somewhere in this form? Can you say we're gonna need it that year, so it's in here somewhere?
Yeah, if you look at, where it says ending assigned fund balance retirement, and it's the 2.6, that's where that's where some of that money would be pulled, if you will. If we use 320, it would come out that year.
But right now, that's not in the illustration, is that correct?
Correct. It's still,
Because you're carrying that balance all the way across.
correct, so because we're not using the 320, we're using the 500. If you look to the column to the left, using the 500,000 and the 923,041, which is what I reflected on the sheet you saw at the the Finance Committee meeting as well. I did not use the 320. It was the 170 from the capital reserve, it was the 500 on the insurance, it was the 923 from this year's fund balance, and it was, the 1.9% tax increase.
Hush has fallen over the table. Comments?
All right, I'll ask the question of, we had $923,000 last year or this year that we were pretty sure we were gonna use, but we didn't use it.
Correct.
So why would we expect that we are going to use it again next year?
Because this year, the 923 came in the revenue, it was unexpected revenue. We had delinquents that were settled. Those high delinquents are not there anymore. We also had 2 large sales of land. They were shopping centers. That's where the majority of our extra money came in, was on our real estate. We're not going to be lucky 2 years in a row.
My question, Dr. Renning, is probably to you, that you feel at this 1.9, we have enough money to cover any staff additions that we might have to do.
At the 1.9, I would say yes. And that's
still
a
a lot of big
conversation that I've had with Ms. Mason, that we do feel within the 1.9 we could cover the.
That's a moving target out there now.
Spurt in kindergarten, you're still good, comfortable?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Careful, we're recording here.
Yeah.
And it could happen. I mean, we
Oh,
don't,
yeah.
that's one of those things.
We
that we
wake up August 30th and we've got
Right.
all these little ones standing at our front door.
And the June meeting, if we're over 100 in one of the buildings at the June meeting, we're going to ask in June to proceed with one of those kindergarten positions.
And we're at 96 at York.
97. 97. Yeah.
I'd like to add that it is a concern of mine that we'll need to be doing some hires. I mean, I see that as a high likelihood.
And at 1.9, we feel there's sufficient funds to cover.
Mr. Watts? Thoughts, comments? Nothing?
In time of peace, prepare for war. I mean, what does that mean?
I don't know, but that sounded good.
Well, just looking to the future, I mean, our enrollments are trending upward, right? We have a new superintendent coming in. This might be completely unrelated to the conversation, but we also have the potential for a changing political climate in our state. And given the past couple of years, I don't think we can take a lot for granted from our friends in the legislature. That gives me pause whenever we're having these discussions. I mean, there was a time when we never thought that we would go until, what was it, March or May without a budget. I mean, the first year I was on the board, I heard that and I thought, my God, that's ridiculous. Apparently not. So, I guess I'm arguing more for a prudent approach to any kind of reductions at this point. I think personally, I think it's time to sit tight. Does that make any sense?
Ms. Say, help me out here.
Sure.
We have a motion and a second on the table for 1.9.
Yes.
We have a proposal for 1.
It was not an amendment of the agenda item, and so we have a motion and a second, and it seems like the end of discussion, it's time to call the vote on the 1.9.
And then return.
And if it doesn't pass, you can return to something else, seek public comment on that before you vote on it,
Okay.
and move forward.
Before we do that, can I ask one more question? As I look at the exhibits, since Corinne's right here next to me, we looked at the March 22nd number, and that showed a current gap of 2.9 million. Then we came forward 2 months, and the gap is 2.6.
That was because
What was
of
that for?
the change in the insurance. When I did the budget with the insurance drop.
So taking that into account allowed us then to not use this.
Correct.
Whereas before, we had actually planned both. That we'd save money from the insurance plan, and we would deploy some of the retirement reserve. That's what it was for. So I would still suggest that we have room to move.
I'm in support of the 1% as well. And just philosophically, there's lots of unknowns with the school district. But it feels like making ourselves safe at the expense of our taxpayers for things that are completely not known to us. We can all predict doom and gloom. We don't know what's going to happen. And I think we need to look at today's situation and fund for today. And I would support the 1%. I believe these numbers support that. And next year is next year. And we fight for that when it's our time to do it, which is next year.
Roll call. Watts?
No.
Toman?
No.
Sears?
No.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gillette?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Fryrick?
Yes.
Posnell?
Yes.
Next item, the administration recommends board adoption of the resolution authorizing the distribution of $666,552.49 state gaming funds to 5,434 eligible homestead properties and 0 farmstead property under Section 342 of Act 1. This certified amount is $1,392 more than the amount certified for the 17-18 year. This real estate tax reduction amount applicable to each approved homestead for 18-19 is $122.65.
So moved.
Second.
Short roll call vote on
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. I'm actually going to put items C, D, E, F, and G into one vote. They're all annual approvals that we do each year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? You can have a short roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The next item, the administration recommends board approval of LIU joint purchasing bids, general supplies, paper supplies, custodial supplies, and art supplies. This totals $85,084.97 as represented in the breakdown below. This is actually an increase of 54% over last year. The main expense coming in on our paper supplies. Last year, our paper supplies was about $15,000. Our buildings were very good about taking their paper down to the end because some of it had built up over years, so they really drained their supply so they could start fresh. You have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, discussion?
Could the information in the minutes reflect what the total of all of these is, please? Just out of curiosity.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends board approval for Mary Jane Englert to continue to be exempt from paying real estate taxes for a property located at 540 Courtly Drive in Newark, PA, as approved by the Pennsylvania State Veterans Commission. This is a renewal of the application approved by the board in September of 2013.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, discussion? You can do a short roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Items J and K together are bid awards for J is for the sealing of the parking lots, and K is for the Tanner furniture.
So moved.
Second.
I'd like to just make a note that that $82,111 for the seal coating is only for the facilities on this side of the district. Next year we will do the other side of the district, but because of the work going on at East York, we decided it would be better to kind of hold off. So if you looked at our original projection, it was going to be about $175,000, so it's about half of what we were contemplating spending this year.
Questions, discussion?
And by sealing, we mean the whole thing's going to get a coat. We're not just sealing cracks.
The whole thing.
Correct.
Whole thing. And even down into the stadium here at the high school and other things.
Short.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Items L, M, and N all have to deal with contracts. L is for the contract for the Valencia Ballroom for the prom next year. M is the LIU contract for June 1st, professional development at the high school. And N is the production for next year at the high school for Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, discussion? It can be a short roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Under informational, you have the donation in the amount of $1,080 from the Indian Rock PTO for the 5th grade field trip to Gettysburg. Food service department report, I wanted to point out in the dining review, that our food service director, Helen Heidler, is resigning. She will be leaving after working 18 years for the district. She's working with Whitson's, but she has been with the district for that long. And her last day with us would be June 8th. I wanted to point that out to the board. She's been very good, and we will miss her.
Have we had any indication from Whitson's how long it will take them to replace her?
We literally have just found this out in the last couple days. I spoke with them today. Timing right now, they're going to put an ad out right away, but they said from a timing perspective, don't be surprised if they run it twice, because most people, school's letting out a little later. People don't generally know when all of their food service awards are being awarded and if they have a job or what's going on till the middle or end of June. So they said they're going to put it out now, but we may not know anything until July.
Do they have any obligation to us to see that things keep going and things that need to be done over the summer are being done? Or?
Oh, yeah. They assured me they will, the two VPs that come down here on a monthly basis, they will continue to come down. Chris Wheeler, who works with Helen, he'll be able to do some of the things as well.
Okay.
They'll take care of all of that. And they said definitely that, we'll be able to start school on time. We won't miss a beat. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Ms. Atkinson, we'll miss you.
Last report. So prom was Saturday night, and we had 363 people attend. Overall, the food and music was not overly popular, but people are already getting excited about attending prom next year, which will be back at Valencia. And there was also increased security with 2 police officers present the entire night, but I'm not aware of any issues. Following was post-prom, and we had about 150 people attend, which was a lot more than last year, and those who went seemed to really enjoy it, especially the raffles. We had track districts on Saturday, and Andrew Paskey is moving on to states in the 300 hurdles. Boys volleyball has districts tonight at Northeastern, should be over. And then baseball also had districts today, and that was against Bowling Springs. I don't know how they did, but graduation is obviously Thursday night at 7. The seniors' last day is tomorrow. Underclassmen finish next Thursday. Class is officially on Tuesday, and then we have finals Wednesday and Thursday. Fun day, I believe, at the middle school is next Wednesday. So that's really exciting. Then York Suburban is the SAT location on June 2nd. And college signing night was last week for seniors who are playing a sport in college. And then in the beginning of the year, I mentioned that York Suburban Middle School's goal was to read 1 million pages by the end of the year, and last week they just achieved it. And now I'm going to introduce Lauren Geyer, who's the next student board rep. She's a really strong student and athlete. She's involved in Student Council, Impact Foundation, NEHS, Science Olympiad. She's a star player on the girls volleyball team and also involved with the boys volleyball programs. So no doubt in my mind that she'll do awesome, and you should be really excited about that. And then lastly, I wanted to thank you for this opportunity. I know it's been a little bit of an unconventional year, but I really have enjoyed my experience. I've learned a lot about the operations of a board. But more than that, it's opened my eyes to the incredible hard work and passion that you put into the district as volunteers to make us successful, and I want to thank you. I'll absolutely take this experience and use it with purpose, not only next year while I'm abroad, but in the years to follow. I really appreciate all the support this year. Mrs. Fryrock, I'll really miss seeing you at so many of my events. And so thank you again for a great year. Good luck next year, Lauren. And that's the conclusion of my report.
Good job.
Big shoes to follow, Lauren.
Good to have you aboard.
Committee reports. The committee schedule is posted. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Posnow. The activity and communications reports for the Communications Committee are provided, but I would like to add that in the recent edition of the Spring-Itsbury Township newsletter, there is the first article featuring York Suburban on page 21 of the newsletter. For those of you who are not residents of Spring-Itsbury, the publication is here. You can review it at your leisure. This will be the first of many. I'm also pleased to say that Mr. Watts has graciously approached Spring Garden Township, and we will be approaching them with leverage.
There you go.
So I, in all seriousness, I think it's a great article. Most important of all, I think it stresses what Suburban is doing for the community, how we give back, not how we give back, but how, pardon me, our students are giving back year round. I think it's a great article. So I'll start this way. There are no questions. That concludes my report.
Ms. Ferry.
Facilities, you have before you the minutes of the April 11th meeting, and that concludes my report.
Mr. Sears.
All right. The Finance Committee met on May the 16th, 6 board members present. And just a couple things from that meeting. During the administrator report, we got a fairly comprehensive update on the health insurance. And in particular, there were a couple things that we had to push forward. One was to reaffirm the decision to leave the LBT. The next was to proceed with the prescription carve-out, caused some adjustments in the cost allocations. And we also heard about the stop-loss quotes with the latest information, 10 months of data now. And Mike asked a very important question, I thought, which is whether the $150,000 level was the correct level. And it seemed like that the agreement was, yeah, that's the correct level, but I think it was a question that had to be asked, and it was. We also talked about the quotes on the stop-loss, once we got past that, and in particular something called a captive. This is an arrangement that was proposed by Pareto, is the name of the company? Paretta?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, they say Pareto there, but in any case, the quote was not the lowest, but the promise is that the growth in the premium is far lower than what we would experience with the other companies. So to get a little bit more information on that, we are supposed to have a webinar on June 13th to explain that. I don't know whether the time and place have been set. Are you aware of that, or is this the first you're hearing of this?
That's the first I'm hearing, because
Might
my
wanna check with those
conversation with Mr. Putt was that they will probably be out.
Well, he proposed that date,
Okay.
so I'm not sure.
Well, I'll be
we can
talking with him
coordinate
again
that.
tomorrow.
And then board approval for these activities at the June 18th meeting. But at least the statement that they made, which was fairly compelling, is that because of the ability, not the ability, but the requirement for us to get more actively involved in cost containment, and he threw out a couple examples. One of those is to have direct provider contracts, another is price transparency, but things like that can help minimize the growth rate in that premium from what he considered to be an industry average of about 15 to 20% per year if we, quote, go it alone, versus 2 to 3% if we have some aggressive management of our exposure. So that's the new information on that. We did talk about the tax rate, and we've had that conversation this evening. There was no information about the food service delinquent accounts. I guess we tabled that till the next meeting, and next month's approvals, there was nothing on the agenda at that time. No public comment. Next meeting is June 13th at 5. We adjourned at 6:20, and that's my report.
A question was raised to me about, I think the term was health advocacy. Did we determine to roll that in next year as part of the agreement, you know, where they could call a number and get help with scheduling procedures and everything? Does that ring a bell?
It does. I believe that falls under the Compass,
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
and that's going to be rolled in next year. Yeah, because of the fact, and you know, unless it things will go along smoother, that they feel it can be rolled in towards the end of this year. But the discussion was, right now there's a lot of things that need to be caught up, and to get that all smoothed over and make sure it's running before we stick that another tier. But yes, that is a part of the plan.
That was a popular feature as we moved this out.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Robinson, you're up again.
Thank you. The minutes of April 10th are provided. Item 2, consent agenda. You have before you the personnel report, which includes resignations, appointments, employment, reassignment, reappointment of extracurricular advisors, reappointment of department chairpersons and resource persons, reappointment of medical personnel and volunteers. Were any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of below-mentioned items with the notation that there is an addendum at the end of the agenda and an additional agenda. Addendum, rather. An addendum to the, not to the addendum, but 2 addendums. Okay. So, chair moves approval of below-mentioned items.
Second.
Discussion? Questions?
Might be a good time to introduce some of the new hires before we vote. Sonia Brown. Sonia is joining us in the part-time Family and Consumer Science position. She's currently at Conestoga Valley, spent a number of years in Indiana at Carmel High School and the Indianapolis Metro High School, correct? Very good. Welcome. Kelly Carl. Kelly is joining us from the IU. She was in the autistic support, is going to be in our autistic support, and spent a number of years as a teaching assistant in autistic support. Beth Ann Holliner. Beth Ann, Central York High School, Dover Intermediate, joining us in the 6th grade math position. Tyler Laudeman. Tyler is joining us from North Schuylkill Elementary and was over in Lebanon County and Hershey Intermediate. And I don't think Myrna Marnikai, I don't think she was able, I think she had a commitment tonight, is joining us from West York as a 5th grade teacher and had a number of years of experience at Montgomery County Public Schools in Maryland.
Welcome.
Yes.
And welcome back to Mrs. Brown. Is an alumni.
We didn't vote on it.
Okay, we need to vote.
Now
that we've welcomed you.
We do that, there was discussion, we
This can be a
clapped in our
short
discussion.
roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Now we can clap.
If there are no other questions, that concludes my report.
What else do we have? Do we have any additional reports?
Some contracts to sign.
A reminder, next Wednesday, May 30th, Academic Standards meets here at 4 o'clock.
Prior, is there an LIU report?
No, there is no LIU report, and I do have a report from York Adams Academy. We are getting ready for graduation on June 4th at 7 o'clock at the York Learning Center. You are, of course, all cordially invited, and we have 7 more graduates from York Suburban who will be graduating. Wait a minute here, I got the names. I might as well read them for you. Blake Schultz, Nathaniel Gonzalez, Dacia Smith, Pierce Bloom, Nicholas Green, Shady Snellings, and Fred Strayer. That will bring our total to 11 graduates from York Suburban at York Adams Academy this year. That completes my report.
Thank you.
Mason, York Adams Tax Bureau.
No report?
Ms. Schroeder, York County School of Technology.
No report.
You have the board meeting and committee schedule here, and this is your last chance for public comment. Anybody interested? Going once, going twice.
On behalf of Stockton Leader, I just want to say thank you for the privilege of serving you this past year, and very much for the opportunity to partner over this next year. Very, very excited about that.
Okay, thank you. I think we're adjourned. Thank you very much.